Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's podcast, today's episode, we do have an amazing woman, and I would love to start with this I don't call it even phrase. I think as a woman, and I know many of my listeners are CEOs, healers, mentors. We always put in our energy towards helping others, helping our children, if you have children, or putting our energy towards our significant others. But sometimes we forget the most important woman, the most important person in the world, and without sound selfish, which is ourselves. Sometimes we choosing others, and the person that we must to choose is ourselves, because when we choose ourselves is when we are coming from a place that actually we can give to others. And our guest today, Naomi, her name is Naomi Buff. She's an expert when it comes to relationships, dating. Also, she coach women through breakups, through divorce, and to actually uh, closing this chapter, and I call it chapter with grace and more ease. Naomi, if you can introduce yourself, and from here we can dive in.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, that was a great introduction. I've been working in the holistic wellbeing space for about 14 years. So I think probably before it became as trendy as it is today. And I actually started out my wellness journey by accident.
Mm.
My son stopped eating when he was 1. He just turned 15 last week. And so it made me, that experience inspired me to learn about nutrition, to learn about health, to make changes in my life, in my family's life, and to try to help support my son.
Yeah.
Alongside that, I was so inspired that I actually just thought, my gosh, I should just start teaching people how to make healthy food, how to look after themselves. So I know at the time I was actually living in Monaco. So I started nutritional cookery workshops, coaching women through making nutritional choices. I trained as a health coach very early on. I trained as an eating psychology coach as well, just to support my clients. That went on to develop a product range, which I then sold in Harrods and Selfridges. I was a consultant with many different restaurants in Monaco and hotels like the Fairmont Hotel and various other establishments. Alongside that, like I was struggling myself with chronic fatigue syndrome. And what I didn't realize at the time was that it was a toxic marriage. That was the thing that was really draining my energy. Like just even walking up the stairs would bring me to tears because I was just so depleted. So I was working in this field of like nutrition in health, but I wasn't really feeling it myself. But that was like my inspiration to keep learning, to keep growing. I eventually came back to the UK. My marriage was really on the rocks. We went into lockdown. And it was actually January 2020 that like the conversation with my ex-husband started, and along then we went into the lockdown in the March, but we were still living together. So I ended up being, I say, locked up. And it completely broke me because it was a very toxic, very narcissistic relationship. But I knew that I knew I had to break free from it. So it was a real journey. I completely crumbled as a woman. I had no confidence. I had like no self-worth. I felt I had no value. Alongside that, the business that I'd built, that crumbled as well. And it was just like, I remember like lockdown being just survival. It was just survival. And I implemented so many tools at the time, which just supported me day by day. And these were coaching tools, like life coaching mindset tools that I'd been working with clients
Yeah.
with.
For years.
And my only focus was just getting through the day. And it wasn't until probably about a year or so later when I had a conversation with my solicitor, and she actually reflected back something which was such a significant thing in relation to my journey. She said, "Naomi," she said, like what you've gone through it's like phenomenal. Like most of my clients don't even experience half of the amount of stress or a fraction of the stress that you're going through, yet you're really calm. You've got it all together. Like you handle this with such grace. And it was a real moment because I thought, I feel like I'm crumbling inside, but actually, and then I was reflecting, I was looking, I was going, well, I'm meditating every day. I'm connecting to my spiritual practices. I'm doing sound therapy. I'm doing Reiki on myself. I'm journaling. I'm getting out in nature. I was doing all of these things. Yeah. And it wasn't, I didn't realize how impactful they were. So that was, so my journey, and I know I've kind of like gone, but I've pivoted so many times over the last 14 years, but it's always been very reflective of like my journey, because I've got countless certificates, qualifications, in all different areas, in coaching, in Reiki, cacao, like 3 different breathwork trainings, sound therapy, loads of different things. But my biggest teacher has been the experiences that I've lived through, and finding that strength within to find the solutions to the problems and like move beyond it and then create my life. Like that's been my greatest teacher.
Oh my gosh, while you were sharing, and I would love to go back in different points and to highlight them because they're really, really important. And when I see you online, and I just feel, like you said, this woman well put together, smiling, showing up. And this is the kind of conversations, Naomi, and I think you will agree with me that we do require, because sometimes we only see the pretty pictures, the woman well put together, the woman, like you mentioned, with the certifications, with the tools. We don't see the experience. We don't see the behind the scenes. And when, thanks to that friend, I don't even know her, that reflect you and allow you to, hey, look, really look within, Naomi. You are amazing. You are the work. One of the phrases that you remind me this, uh, one of my posts I put, like, I don't only know the craft, or I only know the work, I am the work. And I think that when someone mirror that back to ourselves, and that allows to recognize not only the tools that we utilize, like you mentioned, or the titles, the experience and the deep wisdom that has come from every single one of them. And from there, we can help women with deep certainty, confidence, and we show up with this energy that radiates, and people can feel that. People, and we were mentioning this as well. I think this also comes to play here. When we sometimes we don't see the gifts within. I don't look this way, I speak this way. In my case was that. And that is the less important thing. When you have the codes, when you have the experience, when you extract the wisdom, because you make yourself resourceful and you walk the path, you are in the best way to help the woman that is maybe going through step 1 or in the middle, you name it. And you can feel that energy. And that is one of the things that I really I really want to reflect in you, that it's just amazing that once your friend reflect that to you, you were able to receive it. Because one of the biggest parts as well when it comes to recognition and also the relationships as well is being able to receive. Because if we are not able to receive, it doesn't matter if we're like models or if we have an amazing relationship. If we're not able to receive, we're going to sabotage ourselves.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think like I remember that like before I'd gone through this, I used to coach my clients on anxiety, and I knew all of the tools from my trainings and so forth. But it wasn't until that I was in the midst of my divorce where I had this crippling anxiety, and I thought, my God, like now I really know what it feels like. So I'd never experienced that crippling anxiety, and it made me pivot, like the tools that I was teaching, because having experienced it, I was like, right, like I would have it'd be like a big knot. I'd be like, right, where in my body do I feel it? But I didn't have that level of expertise, because before I just had what I had learned, something that was that is information. Okay, we all know information. Like we're in a world where information is so easily available to us, and we can learn anything at a fingertip. And you have like highly intelligent people, but they don't have any life experience. They don't understand like what it really feels like to go through a challenge, or to feel the anxiety or the fear, how it shows up, how it cripples, how it can change like a person overnight.
Yeah, I would love to when you were sharing as well here. I did have a question that I didn't ask when you mentioned this in the first minutes when you acknowledge back then I'm not in a relationship that really is supporting me or is expanding me or make me feel alive or and well without entering into details what was that specific moment because I think we as a woman and I'm speaking as well for experience. I was not married, but I was with a person, and I arrived to one moment where I said, you know what? And excuse my language here. I was like, fuck it. I have 3 kids. I don't care. I'm just gonna grab my kids. I don't care about the house. I don't care about the clothes. I don't care about nothing. I'm just care about my freedom. And I left. And that was a pretty challenging thing because I used to compete on bodybuilding. So the day that I compete, that was the day that I removed myself from that. I was with all the tan and all that, and I was just like, fuck it, like, and I did that. But I think there's always a moment when you like, you decide.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'd been toxic for years, and I'd tried to leave the relationship like a number of times.
Right.
But when you're in like a relationship that is like more narcissistic, there's a lot of love bombing, there's a lot of self-doubt,
Yeah.
and and I was convinced that I wouldn't be able to survive on my own. And that I was worthless, nobody else would want me. All of these stories that I told myself. So it was really, really difficult. My self-value and my self-worth, as I said, was at an absolute like zero. I was like, how can I survive on my own? So I'd always end up like caving and saying, oh, okay, because the love bombing comes, and I'm like, oh, I am
Almost.
really loved, but it really plays with your mind and your
Yeah.
emotions, because you don't know what's real. Okay, you don't know like what I'm feeling, is this real? Like what they're saying, is it real? So you're completely disconnected from yourself. And when you're disconnected, when your mind and your body, when your soul, when you've got this disconnect, it's really hard to make logical decisions from. So it's like going through life with like handcuffs and a blindfold on, like
Mm.
just stumbling. You have
Yeah.
no control.
Yeah.
And you asked about like the moment. So it was January 2020, like right, I think it must have been like one of the very first days of that year, maybe like the second or third. And I went to a sound bath,
Yeah.
and there was an astrologer there, and she said, anything not built on solid foundations this year is going to crumble. And it really stuck in my mind. And obviously, as we know, life as we knew it completely crumbled with COVID.
Oh, they
Um,
each other. Yeah.
yeah, and then a couple of days later, something happened, um, and the words just echoed in my mind, about what's not built on a solid foundation is going to crumble, and the words in my head, like I call it like it's a word, it's a voice from spirit. Okay, if you
Yeah.
believe in something
Yeah,
greater.
I do.
Yeah, and the words I heard was, if it's not now, it's never. And that feeling, if it's not now, it's never, like it just crippled me. I thought, my God, I cannot live in this prison that I'd created for myself um any longer. And that was the moment, it was the sound bath that had really um show me what I needed to see, because in the sound bath I saw my house on fire, and I was standing watching it, and it was just going up in flames, and it was a real moment for me. And that was a moment, like as soon as I'd had that sound bath, I straight away went and trained in sound. I was like, this is something for me. And I'm really grateful that I did, because the sound became one of my tools in lockdown that I would go to on a daily basis. I would go to my gong, I would play the gong, and it would alleviate like the physical sensations of the anxiety that I was feeling. And I would just have like this release come across my chest, across my solar plexus. And I was like, okay, I'm okay. I can get, and then the only thing that I'd want to do, my only goal was just to get through that one day. So I think tomorrow, I can deal with tomorrow. Today, you just have to keep your shit together. You have to keep going, stay in your lane, stay centered, stay true to what you know. And that process, the lockdown for me, it was a spiritual practice. Every day I'd ask for signs. Am I doing the right thing? Show me that I'm on the right path. And all of my signs would flood in. I'd be emotional. It was a roller coaster of emotion. And every day I think I got stronger and stronger and stronger. And here we are.
Yes. While you were sharing that, I was just, oh, I was feeling the chills right here because it sounds like you mentioned when we receive those messages, and I do believe that most of our audiences here, do you have a spiritual connection? We're not talking about religion here. We're talking about a God, if you believe in God,
Yeah.
universe, source. And when we receive those kind of messages, like if it has to be now,
Yeah.
or choose yourself, or like you mentioned, you ask for a sign in that class come, or that friend is coming to reflect you something. When we have this kind of emotional, I call it emotional impacts, is when we, for one moment, for 1 millisecond, we we connect back fully, or we open up to receive the connection that has never been lost with source, and it's showing us the possibilities. And I think from that, I think it's like a sparkle, we are able to move. And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's just like it's going to show you all the way, all the steps and all together, but actually give us the confidence to act and to move, like you said, like,
Yeah.
and to choosing ourselves. I think
Yeah.
it all comes back, Naomi, to choosing ourselves,
Yeah.
to choosing,
Yeah.
to choosing the woman that you see reflecting back in the mirror. One of the things that I always say to my kids is, if you don't, and I do have two girls and a boy, but I do have a deep relationship with my little ones. It's like you have to choose yourself, because if you don't choose you, no one is gonna choose you. Like
Yeah.
it just isn't. They are coming to me and do you like this, like raw or whatever. It's like, do you like that? Has to,
Mm.
it's about you. It's not about me. You don't you did your best. You know what I mean? And it's when I think all starts with developing this love within, and when we do that, it's everything just, it's just become more easier, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I think like what you said there about like choosing yourself, like when you're at like that lowest point,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to
Right.
choose yourself, because you don't know who you're choosing.
Yeah.
Because I know for sure, like I didn't know who I was back then. I was a shadow of the person who I am today. I had lost my identity. I had no self-worth. I had no self-value. So I had to make the choice to rebuild my life. I had to make the choice every single day to like nourish myself, to, and I guess actually you say that, but I did choose me, because I chose to invest my time in like the
Yeah.
meditation. I chose to, but I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was choosing, but I knew that that the the tools that I was choosing would help me reconnect. And where I said before about like I had this disconnect with myself, and I could feel that and I could sense that. And I'd lost all faith. I didn't have any family nearby. I didn't have friends nearby. I had nothing. And it felt like everything had completely, that I knew, my business, my marriage, my friends, my family, everything had gone, because I was in this isolation. And I didn't trust myself. I didn't know myself. I had low self-worth, low self-value. So my faith in like the universe, in source, in angels, whatever you want to call it, that became my lifeline. And that became the thing that I would connect to every day, because it was the only thing that I knew to be true. And so I had to, before I could work on myself, I had to work on this faith. And as I strengthened this faith, as I started to strengthen from within, I started to rebuild myself as a woman. I started to believe in myself, because the belief didn't come from anything on this 3D world. It came from something greater.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this really important key is developing that faith. And so many times we confuse or we correlate faith again with religion, and faith has nothing to do with religion. It's actually, but faith is another word for confidence, confidence in oneself, confidence, and I I I have to mention this as well. When we talk about fate, fate is the same as fear. It's the opposite of fear. We believe in something that we cannot see, and we don't have a guarantee. If that makes sense. But when we develop this fate, and as you mentioned, when we take one day at a time and we do our best, and we're no longer punish ourselves like or criticizing ourselves for being aware from of what we were doing back then is when we start trusting, and from there the belief increase and our identity start to shift into this woman, the woman that we see right now. And when I reflect back about the past as well, I think when we mentioned, well, I didn't know myself, but I think that was it was part of the big process, because if you didn't have that chapter or those chapters of your life, uh, you were not able to be the woman that you're right now, that you have not only the tools but the wisdom. And I think that is also a reminder that when we are in the and like you mentioned, the middle of like a chaos or perceived chaos, we're not able to see this or even to feel it. And sometimes it's even annoying when someone is like, yeah, it has to be better, and you have to just like shut up. Like really, like it's annoying. And it's not because it's annoying because we're not vibrating, we're not resonating with the message, because we are really low. And that doesn't mean that we're bad or we're less than, but it does mean that with the daily practices, the daily devotion towards oneself, we can increase our vibration. And at one point, we are able to receive that message. We're able to move even faster.
100%. You know, I actually, before, I can't remember the exact date that I started. I know it was the end of 2019. I started doing a Kundalini Kriya. And with a Kundalini Kriya, if you know anything about those, you have like a practice, and it becomes like a devotion, because you have to do it every single day. If you miss a day, you have to go back and start at day one. And I'd started one of these. I did the 40 days, and then I did 90 days. And this, I think I did like the 90 days. I think it was all around, and it was quite significant. It was around about like the time when I decided that was it. And I was like, right, this has supported me to this point. I have to keep going. So then I did like 180 days, and I'm like, I don't think I can let this go now. And so I don't remember the exact day that I started, but all I can tell you is I've not missed a day since, and it's over 5 years now. Every single day, I have shown up for my meditation when I've been sick, when I've been traveling, when I've had a hangover, when I've had hormones, when the kids have been screaming and shouting, when the dog wants me. No matter what, it became my non-negotiable. Even when like life is great, it's like, but why would I stop? Because it's supported me so much. And this is like something really, really like key, which will probably help. And I hope it will help like your listeners, because we can set an expectation that meditation, that we have to be sitting there like in this lovely serene state for 30 minutes to get the benefit. Like,
Yeah.
that's absolute rubbish. Okay, what you need to do is just have, I call it my 3 C's. Firstly, it's consistency. Show up for yourself every single day. Secondly, commitment. Commit to yourself like nobody has ever committed to you. And then connection. Connect to yourself. Connect to something greater, whatever that is, and set yourself like a daily minimum standard. Okay, so that could be, my daily minimum standard is 2 minutes.
Oh,
So,
that.
And
So
I think I've probably done like a 2-minute meditation maybe once in 5 years. Like I usually do like 10 minutes is like my absolute minimum. Maximum, I'll sit and meditate for an hour. Okay. But I don't put a pressure on myself. I don't put a time on it. I see, how do I feel today? What do I need? And I set my bar from there, not what was my energy like last week, what was it like last year. It's being present and like asking yourself, what do I need right now, how much time have I got, what can I actually give to me? And that practice has been like the greatest tool of just commitment to myself, because every day before anything else, it's like, no, like you are worthy. Now this is how I built like my self-worth, by investing time in me and showing up for me no matter what. Whoever else wants me, I don't care. I prioritize me.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. And thank you for mentioning the three C's. By the way, the second one just landed so well. Commit to yourself that no one has committed yet.
And
That
they never will. Nobody will ever commit to you the
the
way
way
that you
you
have to commit to
can.
yourself.
Oh yeah, that is so. They just, I mean, everything is important, right? But that one is just landed so well because we can be so committed with our life work, with your clients, with our
Yeah.
significant other, with our children. But what if we can commit with ourselves in a way that never, or I mean, like you mentioned, no one is going to commit in the same way that we can commit to ourselves. But why we don't give to ourselves the love, the devotion, and I think another thing that I've been listening in the last few months, instead of being rigid, like you mentioned, or having this structure that you have to do it, or "Yeah, I need to do it." What if we change the discipline or the needs or the shoulds for devotion?
Yeah.
Devotion is simple. Devotion is you. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Naomi,
beautiful.
yeah.
Do you have any daily practices that you do?
Yeah, I do one. Well, I do on my daily basis. I do two, but on the weekends I do more with my kids. They go with their father. It's like for me, it's like me time. The 2 days I was just like mommy here, mommy there. Um, the daily ones that I do 2 times at least, and I don't put a timer, but at least I love to do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. It's called silence meditation. I don't
Nice.
use tools, I don't use any mantras. I just close my eyes and I sit down with myself, and then I'm journaling how I do feel. And I think another practice, if I can call it practice, or another tool that I utilize, I praise myself. And I'm here, I'm gonna be really raw. I do have a daily conversation like in my room. Like I put that mirror and how do you feel? And sometimes I find myself in tears or I just feel
Yeah.
happy. And this is really, really intimate. But I know many of you ladies, um when I left, well, I didn't left, I'm coming back, but the years that I used to compete, my body was really, I went from really being overweight to really lean, like totally lean with all the six pack and all that. So, and that physique is not sustainable for even for the competitors, like we have to increase our body fat like at least a little bit more, right? So I was gaining weight, and then the gaining, I was like, I went for my weight body, my weight competition was like 100 pounds, and I went up to 115. So it's not, I'm really small, I'm really small frame, but for me it was a big change. And one of the things that allow me, and this has nothing to do with releasing weight but allow me to accept myself, was seeing myself naked every single day in the mirror, like, and acknowledging the voices, acknowledging how all the criticism that was coming back. And until right now, I don't feel kind of sometimes here, there, and there, but I don't have that self-destructive talk. And I think as a woman, we really want to be perfect, having the business, having the six pack or four pack or you name it. And well, at least I speak from experience. I was really hard within myself. Like I needed to look in a certain way or things like that. But when I incorporate that practice or talking to myself and seeing also myself in the mirror and praising myself,
Yeah.
things change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it? I think like as you said, like we put like really high expectations on ourselves as women, and it's not sustainable. And we like every day, if we have this expectation for perfection, then we're setting ourselves up for like disappointment, and we're going to be unhappy in ourselves. So just having that acceptance of where you are in that day, because everything is always changing. You know, like
Yeah.
I always think like I had like a really bumpy start to this year, which
Mm.
kind of like had, and I can see how it's all. I can see the whole picture of it all now. But
Yeah.
last week I was really emotional, and I was
Mm.
like breaking down in tears. But one of the things that like I practice is just being with those emotions, because we haven't been taught that it's safe
To
and it's
feel.
acceptable to be angry, to be
Oh yeah.
sad, to cry, to be resentful. We've been taught from a really young age to, oh no,
To be a girl.
that's not nice. So let's push that away. But in actual fact, like all emotions are valid. Okay. And when we realize that emotions are just energy in motion, and when we give them time and space, when we sit with them and without getting stuck in the emotion, oh, poor me, and becoming the victim of the story, we become the hero when we sit with it and we say, okay, why am I sad? Like, what is the problem here? Oh, I'm sad because of this, this, and this. And then you can have that softness and that compassion and that acceptance for giving that emotion. Yeah, like that's why. That's okay. You know, like we can feel that. And when we feel that, this little bit of magic happens, and we stop being so attached to the emotion and we free it. And we can then shift, and then we might move on to the next emotion. Still might not be that great, but we're moving. It's all about keeping that flow through the emotions, and not staying stuck in them.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned this really important when it comes to accepting all. I think uh, we've been well. Here's not blaming no one, but it's like we think that we have to be a good girl or we have to behave in a certain way. You don't have to feel anger. You don't have to feel in a certain way because it's bad. It's whatever. And when we start suppressing that, is when actually at one moment or another it will show up, and
Yeah.
it's I think we are entering into a new phase where
Yeah.
more people are understanding about emotions and about understanding about that we are consciousness. Consciousness is everything. One of the things that I was sharing with one of my clients is like, you know what, I sometimes people perceive me and when they see me online, and they have to become really aware, like that, oh, this little sweet girl, like, you know what, like I can be that or I can project that.
Mm.
But when they know me one on one, it's like, you're not the same. It's like it's because I think I think I project this like sweet girl, but I I think I was doing more that because I was feeling like I had to be that way, like acceptance. And when I started understanding myself better, I was like, you know what, I can be a bitch if I want. Like it has nothing to do with it's. I was confusing being good, being nice with being kind, or
Yeah.
being good with it has I have to accept it all and shut down my feelings. And it's not about that. It's being
Mm.
who you really are. And when and this is a process as well. Sometimes it's if we're being accustomed to behave or to feel in a certain way, or we identify ourselves with that sweet little girl, and from one moment to another we want to change it. It's like it's a process as well, and over
Mm.
integrating, I call it shadow, integrating all parts of you, integrating that part that feels anger, integrating that part that uh, gets pissed off, and that's okay, you know. And I think when we are doing that, people have actually the best version of ourselves, because we're coming from a place of pure authenticity, of
Yeah.
real being a human, a raw human.
Yeah. And we're all like spiritual beings in
It's
this
here, yeah.
physical body, and we're all on this journey of discovery, really. Some people are more asleep to it than others, but that's their journey, and I think it is very much about accepting each person and meeting each individual where they're at, and not where I am, not where you are, like, and just having that space for them to be who they are.
Yeah, and
Support that.
yeah, and I think you really touch this point that is really, really strong when it comes to helping people, when it comes to help clients. Let's normalize that people sometimes are not ready to receive, and it has nothing to do with you. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with your life work. And when you understand that and you actually step into this sovereign, into this woman that she know her shit, she know her craft. You're coming from plenty experience. You're able to navigate the sweetness and the anger, and you're able to understand yourself at the deepest level. You're not taking nothing personal, and actually you attract the right clients. And the clients that are ready to receive, the clients that are ready to actually they take your tools, take your wisdom, and utilize them and integrate it in their life. And when that happens, it's a win-win situations, because sometimes we want to help this, we want to help this woman, this, we don't know their soul journey. I call it soul journey. We don't know them. We don't know if this is the, and it could be another whole episode here, but we don't know if this is the first journey. We don't know if it's the first life. Well, like I said, this could be another whole mix of that. We don't know. And when you understand that, you liberate yourself. You're not taking nothing personal. If someone is, if you offer something, it's like I always put this example, and well, you and I were able to see it if you are watching the video via YouTube. Like you have something, let's say this red pen, I'm gonna offer it to you. If you take it, amazing. But I'm not gonna do the mistake that sometimes as a providers, mentors, coaches, healers, we do. We have this red pen in our client or possible client has his hand or her hand, his, and we put it this, take it. It's forceful. And when you do that, people sometimes are not ready to receive. You're gonna feel resentful. It's not gonna work out. So let's normalize that not all people are for us, and that's okay. And like you mentioned, Naomi, people are in the different journeys, and by you becoming and committing with yourself and doing your daily work and mastering your craft, you will attract the right people. Don't worry about that. Yeah, there's tools, there's marketing, all the good stuff that we delegate or we do ourselves, whatever what chapter of your business you are, but it becomes more easy because you attract people that are reflecting you. That's it.
Yeah. And it becomes more of like a spiritual practice as well. Like when you just like surrender over to the universe and you just ask, like, bring me the people who I need to serve and help today.
Yes.
Align me with those who are open and
Ready.
ready to change, who I can serve, who will align with my teachings. It's again, it's everything. I do think that and this is something that like I probably learned. I've always been very spiritual from like a very, very young age. I had no choice in the matter. My mum's a psychic, all my family are in the healing world in some capacity or another. So it was inevitable for me. So it's been ingrained. But I think 5 years ago, it really hit home when I had nothing, when I lost everything, when I lost everyone, and I felt that there was nothing. Like my life became a spiritual practice because everything on this, everything that I knew to be true in this 3D world had crumbled. So when you, and I think this is like really key because I think we can all resonate with a moment in our life where we've had that complete, if you know tarot, that the tower where everything
Oh,
crumbles.
yeah.
Yeah, the tower. We hate the tower.
Yeah.
But it is, and it's I always believe that it's the rebuilding, and that everything happens to us for a reason. But when bad things happen and when it feels that like the world is being completely shattered as we know it, it can feel like the universe has got something against us, and we can get really stuck in that negative story that we will create for ourselves. Oh, poor me, I'm such a victim, bad things always happen to me. And the more we think, the more that manifests. But really, if we shift that story and if we surrender and we go, yeah, like this is not what I thought it would be, but maybe this is happening for me so that the next part of this chapter like I'm ready, I'm aligned, I'm stronger, I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right thing, whatever the reasons are. And this, it gives us the capacity to move from being the victim of the story, staying in the problem, staying in the negative, to empowering ourselves in the darkest, hardest moments, and going and surrendering, trusting, connecting to that faith and saying, but what if this is all part of the greater plan? What if this is happening like for me? What if this is aligning me with something greater? And then that fear, we can try to transmute that into excitement. Well, what's coming next? You know, it's all about, and again, like it's been an alchemist with energy and not taking it personally, which is hard.
And it's also changing the perception. And like you mentioned, what if this is part of the whole process? Oh, yeah, it is perfect because it's part of the whole process. But I think that also comes back to having someone that can understand and can support us. I will say,
Yeah.
not doing the work for us, but support us, or having those daily practices, like we mentioned here, having those
Yeah.
practices that will allow us to anchor until we raise our vibration, until we remove ourselves from the place that, or we rebuild the new and we release the old. Makes sense, because sometimes it's those words can really feel really good when you are in a good place, in between, quote unquote, but when we are in the middle of the shit hitting the fan, we those words are actually annoying. Like we mentioned, it's like, I don't want to hear that, give me the
Yeah.
solution. But when we shift our perception, we're able to attract new tools, we're able to move ourselves with grace, by acceptance, and by actually taking action towards the thing that we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as I said, like last week, I was like, the whole world was against me and I was crying, I was emotional, I was an absolute wreck, but still every day, like I was like, right, like I'm not in a good place. I'm in control of this. What do I need to do? And so every day, and it's like day by day, it's an emotion. Sit with the emotion, be with it, process it. What's it teaching you? So I went through all of these processes and exercised every day, eating really well, getting out in nature, all of the things that I know support me. And then within literally the matter of a couple of days, I'm like, oh, back to myself again now. So it's we all, and the thing, like the really important thing is, and I share my challenges, and I do share my challenges because I think it's really important for people to understand that no matter how much work we do on ourselves, no matter how many meditations we're doing or sound baths or all of those things, like the challenges still happen. It's we cannot avoid like challenging things happening to us. We can't avoid all of the crap that's going to come our way and knock us sideways, and feel like everything crumbles. However, what is in our control is how we move through it, what we think, how we process it. And this is where the magic really happens, because a bad or challenging moment in our life, it can last a couple of days or a week, or it can last a year or a lifetime. Now, the only person in control of that is us. And when we realize that, we take the power back and we go, okay, and we accept it. Yep, this is not fun. I don't like what's happening around me, but what can I do to support myself? How can I move through this? How can I process it? How can I learn from it? You know, like when we adopt that mindset, everything changes and we move and we shift. And I've done that, like, I can't even tell you how many times like in my life. I'm like, oh, okay, can we have like a bit of a break now, please?
I do have enough of contrast now. I can, like Abraham Hicks says, I do have enough of contrast. I can enjoy this. I know I do have in my vortex 30 years or 20 years of resources for I don't know, like, to stop this contrast. Like, it's just, but I deeply understand that. And you mentioned this as well, like when we are doing the work, we have those days, and let's accept it. But those days doesn't define us, because we are actually the creators, and we are actually the woman who define the day, by changing our perception and by utilizing the tools and supporting us in a way that feels great for ourselves.
Yeah.
For you is meditation, some bath. For you is going out in nature, journaling. You find what works for you, and just help yourself in from that way.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to those 3 C's. Like you have to, like, when you're faced with the challenges, commit to yourself like no one's ever committed to you. Like be consistent with it, connect every day. It really it's simple, but it's just you have to implement, you have to take action. It's no good sitting here going, oh well, yeah, like doing a meditation, that's going to make me feel better, but and then sitting on the sofa watching Netflix and eating a bag of crisps. If you know what is going to serve you and what's going to make you feel better, take action. You have to take action. Like it's as simple as that. Like just by knowing that you need to do a meditation doesn't mean that you're doing the work. You have to sit in it, you have to do it, and you have to do it the day after and the day after and the day after. And you have to be prepared that you might not have that miraculous, like spontaneous epiphany moment, but you might just get the 1% or the 2% shifts. But compound interest, that's what we like it builds, it builds, it builds, it builds, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and that is, and like you said, we utilize the tools to recalibrate ourselves, and from that recalibration, from that feel where we feel good when we feel in tune with ourselves, from there taking action. Because one of the things that I strongly don't suggest is just taking action because just the matter of taking action. If you take action, it's like having a vacuum without, you don't even plug the vacuum, and you're doing
Yeah.
the motion, you're doing the
Yeah.
motion, all the things. It sucks because guess what? You're tired, you're doing all the work, but you're not connected. So do your practice.
Yeah.
Understand what works for you. That analogy, I love that analogy, because it's like, yeah, sometimes we do the thing and we're like every single thing, every single detail, it's not connected. If it's not connected, might as well go outside.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that. I love an analogy. I'm gonna use that one. That's I will credit you, of course.
all the things is like, oh damn, it's not connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing the work. I'm putting the marketing, whatever. Like you're doing that, but you're not connected. Just connect yourself. It takes 30 minutes. Let's take maybe 5 minutes. You know yourself, and from there take action. And it
Yeah.
works. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this episode has been fantastic. So podcast. I want to close up with two. Where it's one question, two questions. It's two questions right now. We used to ask just one question, but right now it's two. And we want to make sure that we want to mention how they can follow your life work, because it's really amazing. I have to say that we want to put it below this video and also on all the platforms. But what is your superpower, Naomi, and what is your word for 2025?
What is my superpower? I'm a Scorpio, but I'm a double Scorpio. So I'm a Scorpio moon and sun with a Libra rising. So I think my superpower is like transformation, like rising from the ashes, the bringing being able to cope with the dark and bringing the light in. I think that's my superpower. And my work for 2025 is it's building a solid foundation, pivoting my business more online so that I can serve more men and women. I work with men as well, mainly women.
Yeah.
Just to support, like through the coaching, through the connected breath work, which is absolutely phenomenal. So it's about building community, building trust, and building a solid foundation. And building a legacy as well, building like work that my children can look and say, wow, like that they're proud of their mum for the impact. Like I want to have an impact.
Mm, it's amazing. I have to extend on your superpower here. I have to extend it. And of course, I don't know if you're familiar with human design.
Yeah.
Yeah, what design are you?
I think I'm a generator.
Creator. Okay, I'm a manifestor, and I have to explain this to the real quick. As a manifestor, sometimes I do see things, and it's like I brought that analogy last week. We were having a conversation that sometimes we are in this cliff and we want to jump, or right, and we want it, but it's like, and I am with my energy as a manifestor, I just initiate things. I just like, I just have this urge, and it's like,
Yeah.
Just give that little push. And I think one of your superpowers as well, and I have to enhance it right here, is that people feel really safe. And you bring this beautiful, since the first minute before we were first record, and until now, I just felt this, your energy is really grounded, it's powerful, is sweet, but at the same time, you propel with this sense of I have this shit together, and you bring this safetiness, makes sense, and I can really feel that. And I think
Mm.
that's a gift. It's an amazing gift for our clients because we don't want to be with someone that is an asshole, you know, like you have to do this, or someone that oh, it's all good. Just put crystals on your bra and just
Oh
meditate.
God, no.
I think you blend this beautiful balance. Like even right now, I'm changing the voices right here. Like, "Hey, let's put crystals on our brass." And no, no, no. Or just do the thing. Like you bring this beautiful, amazing balance, and I think that is so powerful to have. So not many.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like the authenticity and being real and raw have, like, since I started my social media journey, like that's been very important to me. So like I will, if things are good, I share that. But also like when things are challenging, I share that. But then I'll also, it's not a oh poor me story, because I do not do the victim. I don't do the victim. Like I will share something, but then I'll share like the how did I get through this? Like this happened, but this is how I moved through it. Like nothing is permanent unless you make it permanent, but the choice is always in the individual. So yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Naomi. This was great. Thank you so much for all the listeners, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you so much.